They will never ever tell you this when starting your own tech business. And that is why you might end up doing the absolute mistake, which might cost you a lot, and even as far as your business. Being in a tech business needs strategic planning, and here's how I did mine. Though I've been into tech for less than a decade, which you can probably say 8 years, specializing into web design. But before that, I was able to pivot myself from being a graphic designer to a computer engineer, and also to the job I'm doing right now, a web designer, professional web designer. And believe me, there's no types of ups and downs relating issues, debugging of clients and everything that I have not faced. And here is how I was able to tackle all this. But before that, let me tell you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you're depending on a client just to close a particular deal? Yep, I've been there before. And here's how I was able to conquer this and able to also close 80% of the clients that come my way. During my years of being in tech, I was able to pivot from being a graphic designer, a blogger, a computer engineer, and also my current job, which I am doing, a web designer. Not just an ordinary web designer, bro, I'm operating on God mode. And I am able to close 80% of the clients that come my way. How I got my first job as a web designer. The boss I worked with before was kind enough to listen to my problems. And most times when you have a skill, you have to make sure that you're able to speak out. And that is what people are not understanding. Communication matters, networking matters in this tech business. I told him my skill, and he was able to relate with that. And he passed me a job that an oil company needed. And of course, your first job isn't always easy. So being a naive web designer, I was able to close the deal for $50. Though I was grateful for it because I was able to buy a hard drive and I was able to do some upgrades to my computer. Not just that, I was able to connect with more people during my years, close more deals, and make more friends. And yes, the important thing I want to tell you, the part people don't usually tell you in tech. You must be able to deal with the marketing first. Starting a tech business or a business as a whole is so easy and exciting. But if you're not able to deal with the marketing, putting yourself out there, you might end up losing a lot. Let me tell you something. Growing a plant is so enjoyable, but if you forget to water that plant, it dies off. And that is how it is for businesses. You have to know how to market. You have to know how to relate. Relating with people would give you more connection, more prosperity into the business. You have to learn how to take your business as the plant. But the deal here is how to get people to buy your services. There are a lot of graphic designers, web designers, project managers, and a lot more in tech. But the problem now is they are so talented, but not able to market themselves outside. And that is the problem. People are so excited to start a business, but they are not willing to market themselves or to show themselves out there to people. Let me tell you something. When I started as a whole, it took me over 5 years to gain consciousness that marketing is the key importance to a business. And you know the funny thing about this business, there are a lot of talented people out there, talented tech people out there. But the problem now is they can't really market themselves, show themselves out there to the world, tell people this is what they deliver. And even as far as better than me in this field, nope, nobody's better than me in this field. But what I'm just trying to say is that I was able to connect more with people, to close more deals. And this is what people don't usually tell you. People are so excited in starting a business, but they are not able to put in the work in marketing. Getting a skill is rich, but marketing is the goal. And which brings me to my next one. It's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. The key in business is networking. And if you're not able to network with people, how are you able to close a deal? That is the problem many tech startups are having. Closing a deal needs people, and if you need to get the people, you need more network. And that is the problem we are having today. People are not able to network. And how can you do this? How can you connect with more people? Let me tell you something. When I started my business, I was in college. And during that process, I was able to connect with more people, know more friends, know more people and their lifestyle. You know, school is a social gathering. And with that, I was able to increase my sales 80% of the time. And I can tell you freely right now, most of the deals I got when I was starting came from connecting with more people. And funny enough, till date, because of the connections I made before, I'm still able to close more deals because of that. The honest truth about school isn't just to go and study, but to connect and network with more people. And that is the idea of school for me. Many people just go to school, study, and step out of the class and go home. That is it. But for me, I was able to network with more people. Even as simple as saying hello to someone on the road. It's as simple as that. And because of that simplicity, I was able to get their contact. And with time, they became my clients. And which brings me to the next one. Be the best at what you do. and never be replaceable. Most times in this business, people complain about closing deals, which has been a major problem in the society now. But what differentiates you from others? Let me tell you something. If you are the best at what you do, people will always come and patronize you. Forget who is out there, forget the people, forget the amount of clients they have. But if you continue to show yourself out there, put in more effort, people will always come and patronize you. And that is the key rule of the business. You have to do your best so you are never replaceable. Once they test you and you are the best, it is impossible for them to replace you. Get that through your head. You must be ready to serve people, put in that max energy. And this brings me to the next one. You must be fully active. Come on, this is the mistake people make these days. They are not always active for business. You must be there, active, always be on your course. Always be ready to serve people. Always be ready when your clients need you. That is the most important rule in the business. If you are not ready, people will always move on to the next person. They don't care what you were doing before. Once you get a message from them that, oh, I need this done, be ready to serve. And this is the problem people have these days starting a business. You must be ready and willing to serve people. That's because it is not your needs that are important, it is their needs. You have to make sure you put their needs first and get on with it. And why I am saying this is because I have been there, and probably I have never been active back then. And that's because a lot of distractions out there. But if you're fully into this business, you have to eliminate all distractions and make sure you put in your all. Once you put in your all, clients will always come. They will always be ready for you. And this is my saying, once you put in your all, people would always find you. And clients these days are not judging people from the hard work they put. And when I mean judging, they prize you with the amount of work you put into the business. And that brings me to my next one. Never settle for less. If you're good at what you do, you should never settle for less. And yes, I know you're a startup. You should settle for less. No, that is not the case here. You don't have to show you're a startup. Showing you're a startup means that the client can downgrade you or put you in their level. And that's not what you want. You have to be in charge. You have to be in control. And that's why most times people don't usually tell that they are a startup. Instead, they say they are more experienced in the field. Believe me, I have been there before. When I got my first deal, it was $50. Though, was I grateful? Yes, I was grateful. Was I satisfied? No, I wasn't satisfied. I had to take it. And that's because my background was already telling that I am a startup. And because of that, people were judging me because I was a startup. You don't have to show you're a startup. You have to show them that you're incredibly good at what you do. If you're worth more than what your client says, you have to show them proof. What I do to get my clients' interest is by showing them my portfolio, showing them what I have designed during my years, my experience, companies I've dealt with. That alone builds more trust, and not just that, it increases the bag. You have to never settle for less. In fact, you don't need to settle for less. Being a startup doesn't mean you have to settle for less. Never show you're a startup. The mentality I have built in this business is stronger than what my clients think, and that is why I can never settle for less. Knowledge is always power, and which brings me to the next one. You must always be amazed. Life is a learning process. As a startup, you have to be in the learning process. You have to be curious about how people did this. And that is what I did. I was able to learn from my top colleagues. I was able to learn from top YouTubers of how they were able to get to this point, to that point. That was the leverage I used to scale up my business. I became better in my thinking, my finances, and also how I relate to people. And what can you do about the situation? Never show you know too much. If you have a master or a tutor, always be willing to learn from them. Learning takes time, and that can build you up and make you become a pro at what you do. It begins to build your block as a startup, mentally, financially, and not just that, it gives you the peace of mind networking with more people. Like I have said, life is a learning process, and being a startup, you need to be a learner. But never show that to your clients. And that brings me to my next one. Always use clients' feedback as a way of improvement. No matter how good you were with your client or prosperous in closing a deal with them, if you are giving a good compliment, yeah, that's good. Well, everybody loves good compliments, but let that not get into your head. You need to do more. You don't need to relax. Compliments are somehow like a comfort zone. You don't need to be comfortable at that situation. If a client tells me, oh, Light, I love your work. It was so amazing. Yes, I acknowledge that. But deep within me, I have to do more. Not to be comfortable about that situation. There's a way compliments work. When people are being complimented, life rewards you. But that's not just all. Life takes it to a higher level. And that higher level might be a difficult task that might be presented to you. A client might like that particular project, which is good. But as life goes on, you receive a client that want better jobs, that want better deals, that wants you to do more. And that is up for you to improve. If you're being complimented, yes, take that, but you need to improve in that skill. Never settle for that particular compliment. And that is how life works. You never get comfortable when things are easy. You need to step up. Which brings me to my next one. Whatever gets to your hand, always deliver. In this field of work, there are a lot of people that don't really care of how they do it. As long as it pleases them, they get it done. You always have to make sure that your client is satisfied with what you have delivered. And not just that, you will have to differentiate yourself totally from people of your field. My mom will always tell me, whatever that reaches your hand, do it well. Yes, you might have delivered the task, but you have to stand out. Are you doing something different from people? That is the idea of this business. You have to make sure that being a startup, you have to deliver. You have to make sure that your clients are satisfied, you are unique. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is branding. And there is something startups usually do. When they get their first deal, they get excited. And because of that, they expect that is how it will be in the next run. But that brings me to my next one. Expect disappointment. In this line of work, you have to expect disappointment. As a startup, you must know clients are full of surprises. There are most times you might think that you might get clients, and when you eventually get a client, you might end up seeing that they disappointed you. Well, that is heartbroken, but you should know that is how it is. When I started my business, I was always expecting that a client will always show up. Most times the problem is you talk to a client, you try to close a deal, or in the end, they might end up disappointing you, and that can create a big heartbreak. And sometimes it gets worse when that's the deal you're expecting for a financial breakthrough. You should never ever depend on a client, especially never ever expect much from a client. Going into tech, you have to prepare for the worst and also the best. Which brings me to the final one. Creative minds will always win. As long as you're starting a business, you have to realize that people are there. People were there before you, and you have to top up your game. And how can you do that? You have to be creative, differentiate yourself from others. You have to do something unique that people will see and say, yes, that brand, I know who did it. I know that guy. I know him very well. He's good at what he does. He's the best out there. Let's get him. And boom, you've gotten a client. If possible, you've stolen another person's client. Well, that's their loss. You have to be creative in whatever you do. If you're a graphic design well. Put up a story out there that people would see that, oh, this guy, he's good at what he does. You have to tell people the story behind that design, the story that inspires people. Coca-Cola always do that a lot. People see the story behind their brand, and their brand tells happiness. And what is your own story? What is your own creative idea that differentiates you from other techies? You're a startup. You need to show people your uniqueness. What differentiates you? What brings you into the business? What clients can never resist from you? That is the idea of being a techie. My mom always said, the people in your class that are always winning, do they have two heads? That was so annoying. But I had to realize that statement. Are they better than me? No one is better than you. The person in your class have the same head, the same brain power that you have. Your intellectuals have to be creative, and that brings us to the tech world now. You have to be more creative in what you do. Start yourself in a process where people will see your work and they can never resist the amount you put on. Never ever follow the crowd. People would always appreciate your uniqueness in your project, and that brings you more deals and more flexibility to your income. You have to be creative. Creative mind will always win in this game. So if you like this content, do me a favor to subscribe, like, and share. And I would want you to share this content to every tech startup that really needs this. So guys, if you want to see my pretty face every time, subscribe. I always produce valuable content to your lives. And that's not much. Until next time, stay blessed.